This man is undoubtedly the breakout star in world football this year, unless you've been living in a cave. Girona are in a title race against Real Madrid, and as we speak, they play tomorrow, Saturday, in probably the most important game left in the La Liga season. And Savio, or Savinho as he is otherwise called, has been central to that title charge. So if you don't know about Savinho, get to know. This is the video for you. And I think it's very, very fascinating that Manchester City have chosen to, I would say, pursue him, but, you know, it's within the same City football group. That we'll get into as well. But it's fascinating that they chose him given the profile of players they already have. But he is probably the closest thing to a classic winger right now. But first of all, let's talk a little bit about who the player actually is. Savio Moreira de Oliveira, otherwise known as Savio or Savinho. He is turning 20 in April, so still very, very young. He's already been on the books of Atlético Mineiro, Troyes, PSV's Academy, PSV, and Girona, and now Manchester City from the summer. And Troyes is a really important point here because Savinho is their record signing. Troyes are a team in the second division of France. Troyes bought Savinho, loaned him out to PSV, where he made just a few appearances, and then loaned him out again to Girona, who are another football club within the City football group alongside Manchester City and indeed Girona. So he was bought by Troyes, loaned to PSV, loaned to Girona, and now is going to Manchester City from Troyes, who he never played for and will never play for. Spare a thought for Troyes fans. The record signing has not made a single appearance, and that club has ultimately turned out to be just a method, an outlet for talent to actually go to other City football group owned teams. It's pretty awful because the guy has been imperious. He contributes more than a goal every other game if you take the goals and assists total for the season, 12 by the 90s that he's played so far this season, ahead of the Real Madrid game, which is 20.2. So he has been a regular starter for Girona, mostly playing on the left-hand side. He is a classic left-footed left winger. That's where he has played most of his minutes for Girona. He's the closest example I can think of to a classic winger that exists nowadays. Aggressive dribbler. Someone that will just drive at defenders, get to the byline and cross it, or drive inside and drag defending numbers with him and open the space for others. And all his role about is space, because Girona play in a really unique way, as I covered before on this channel. Savio's role is also incredibly important in this. You know what that means? It's time for the tactics board. Here you go. Oh, look at me slide. So this was the formation in one of the more recent games against Celta, and I included the Celta game rather than the most recent game that they drew 0-0 against Real Sociedad, because it includes Artem Dovbyk, who is the central striker. They play against Sociedad with Porto up front because Dovbyk wasn't available. This man will just hug the touchline alongside Tsigankov on this side. Tsigankov is slightly different because he is inverted, and then Jan Koto, who is an incredibly attacking-minded fullback, also on the books of Manchester City. Surprise, surprise. Tsigankov drifts in, and Koto becomes like a very attacking winger and gives the width on the right-hand side, whereas Savinho does that there. Now, Gutierrez will be seen most often here between the winger and the striker. Or when it comes to the opposition, it will be between the opposition right back and the opposition center back. Gutierrez is probably the freest left back there is in a top flight in the world. He actually has a free number 10 role. And then the attacking shape becomes something like a 3-2-5 or a 3-1-6, where the actual on paper number 10 Porto will join this 6-man front line. And then you get Angel Herrera on the back and some security at the back. Alice Garcia being a bit of a playmaker from the back. Dali Blind joining the attack potentially. Yeah, why they commit so many men forward is pretty simple. they pass loads, so they will just keep the ball. And what they want to do is... Wait, let me put opposition players in because that's going to be pretty important in this next part. Time! So Girona will seek to overload the right-hand side. Even Gutierrez will drift in and then join up a little bit. Dovbyk will try to pin a center back with him. But they will keep the ball, overload one area of the pitch, typically the right-hand side, because typically Fabinho is on the left-hand side, incredibly strong in one-on-one situations, and that's where they use him to his best strength, because they'll keep popping it about. You get everybody here pressing, committing to one side of the pitch, trying to defend, and then all of a sudden you get the ball out back to like Angel Herrera who make a switch, Alex Garcia who's excellent at those switches. Oh wow, you have a one-on-one Savinho up against the right back, totally isolated, so Savinho will just drive with the ball this way and beat the defender and then make a cutback or move inside. Daley Blind will then overlap him in an effort to try to find more ways of opening the space if it isn't open. Then you get combinations with Gutierrez, Dovbyk trying to move things around, commit maybe the right back with him, then the ball moves to Daley Blind, who has the chance to cross. It's all about trying to find the space for Savinho to do what he does best, get isolated, and then he'll try to drive infield to create chances or go to the byline and create a goal-scoring chance himself. Which is the essence of the Girona way of playing, is to play everybody to their strengths, something that Miguel totally believes in, and something that he has tried to structure his playing style based off of that. And I covered it in my previous Girona video, which you can find in the eye icon over there, where he lost players in the summer, including Oriol Romeu, for example, so he doesn't have any more destroyers, and then he had to adapt the style of play to better utilize the players. Savinho came to Girona on loan this summer, and what they found is that they can keep the ball for longer on one side of the pitch because they have lots of players that are really, really good at those combinations, obviously very well drilled at it. And then you get those isolations with Savinho on the far side and get him isolated one-on-one, and then you're in business. If I show you this chart, for example, you might look at this pizza chart here, and you might say, well, it doesn't look like overwhelmingly great. Like, yeah, it looks like he just carries the ball a bit and crosses loads, and maybe he's limited in that way. But two important things here. Yes, these are his strengths, the dribbling and meeting a defender one-on-one, but also he's 19, so when he goes to Manchester City and learns from Pep, that's a totally different proposition. It's actually scary, and I find it a little bit baffling that Manchester City are buying him, and I wonder how they are going to use him, because they have two excellent left wingers, and obviously Jack Grealish and Jeremy Doku each are different in their own way. Doku will try to, similarly to Savinho, drive inside or drive to the byline and cut it back, and is excellent one-on-one against defenders and is quicker than most. Whereas Jack Grealish takes his time more on the ball, will probably pass it like backwards more often, will drift in field and try to get himself in sort of half spaces. But Savinho is left-footed, and he can kind of hug the touchline. You know, in a similar way that Leroy Sané used to play at Man City, when they would have Sané and Raheem Sterling so far wide and just stretching the pitch. And I think there's a real trend evolving with getting like really, really wide players and inverting fullbacks, like going inside between the winger and the striker and invading that half space. And it's an excellent way of playing against the four-man defense. So I wonder, this is mumbling at this point, but what if teams start to play a back three more often to counter that? Because when you play with a back four, you have the right back up against a really wide winger, so the striker can just pin a center back, and then you get a space opening up for the left back or a runner from midfield that opens up. And the best way to score goals, I heard this from a really prominent technical staff employee at an MLS team. They found that the best way to score goals, and this is not a secret, but the best way to create chances, and the one that is the most effective way of doing so, is to find a space in that half space in the penalty area. So this particular area of the pitch, this way, and obviously the other way, which is covered by the camera, but in this case, this is where it applies because it's Savinho. It is all about trying to get the ball here, because when you're there, well, first of all, it means that you've progressed really high up the pitch. You can put Savinho on the ball. You can get the runs from Dovbyk, and if it's a faster break, it means that you've stolen the march on defenders. He's in a situation, he's beating the right back. Dovbyk can like nip in on the near post. Savinho crosses it. Dovbyk scores. Happened so many times this season already. Or then you can get a cutback to Gutierrez, who's waiting outside the penalty area. That player could also be Aleix Garcia going up. That can be Angel Herrera. Savinho could be Daley Blind in this situation, in a Girona-specific situation, because Savinho might have driven inside at that point and taken the right back with him, and then it opened up for Daley Blind. But you get where you know where I'm getting at with this. Get the ball in this half space in the area, and you have a really good chance of scoring most times. And I wonder if Man City are trying to find a similar way of achieving this, of trying to get the ball into the area as often as possible, while doing it in a new way, let's say. So that might be through a left back that comes in the summer, or an evolution of Joško Gvardiol to play a similar role to Daley Blind. Maybe. Gvardiol has been playing sort of a left back for Man City at this moment in time. I'm not totally convinced by it, by the way. I think he's a perfect left center back. So just get him to play at left center back is my opinion. But they're probably going to win the league again, so who am I to speak? But maybe they're thinking about that. But also Savinho can play on the inverted side. So are they bringing in a Riyad Mahrez replacement at this point? Who knows? But Savinho is an extraordinary talent, and Manchester City have got themselves a gem here. A genuine gem. Yet another player for Manchester City to terrorize the Premier League. When will it end?